Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to a special edition of the Lady Be Blessed show. Today, it's going to be a very exciting show because we're going to be discussing, as you know, this week is the United Nations General Assembly, and we had a very exciting week with the SDG Action Zone. As you know, I have Lady T. Thompson with me. Normally, we would be at the United Nations, but because of COVID, our best friend 19, we are here virtually. And so we both attended virtually this year, and we're just going to do a recap of the SDG zone action. Hello, T. Thompson.
Hello, Lady B. Thank you for having me today.
Oh, thank you for joining the discussion. The theme today is the dialogue continues, no one left behind. And I'm just going to give a little brief summary of the 17 goals to transform the world. For those that do not know, the SDG are a call for action by all countries, poor, rich, and middle income, to promote prosperity while protecting the planet. They recognize that ending poverty must go hand in hand with strategies to build economic growth and address a range of social needs, including education, health, social protection, and job opportunities, while tackling climate change and environmental protection. More importantly than ever, the goals provide a critical framework for COVID-19 recovery. So basically, that was why the goals were started. And that's the frame and the overview of um, the 17 goals to transform the world. Now, the goals and target also will be this is the fifth year, which makes it so important that we do cover and see the progress that we've made, because it's been 5 years since the goals were set in motion, and now we have 10 more years to go. So now we're calling this the decade for action, because we exactly have a decade to accomplish these goals. And then we know with the onset of COVID-19, it has pushed a lot of the goals back at least 3 years. What do you say, T. Thompson?
Well, I say thank you so much for talking about how we got to these 17 goals that are there to transform the world. But I think there's two pieces. One is let's tell the people what the SDG Action Zone is about. So the SDG Action Zone has taken place, as Lady B has said, all week with the United Nations during the General Assembly, which is a high-level week to provide space for deeper conversations, debates, and showcasing core areas to accelerate actions for the Sustainable Development Goals. And it is intended to create a more transparent, open, and inclusive United Nations General Assembly. So the spirit of the SDG Action Zone has been there for very crowd inclusive and to have great sessions from people and stakeholders from around the world. So this is why the SDG Action Zone was held. And so the 2020 edition is different than what we experienced last year, physically being at the United Nations. This year, because there's no physical connectivity in locations due to the pandemic, this was a way for the SDG Action Zone to still be featured and be inclusive on a virtual platform. So this was a way to bring the United Nations to the world and the world to the United Nations. So I'm so excited that though this was the first time that all parties were able to, from across the globe were able to kind of interact for conversations and dialogues and networking and really talking about some of the fringes of what the United Nations General Assembly has done and what they're trying to do, and particularly talking about global issues. It was well welcomed with much discussion. So thank you for allowing me to talk about the SDG Action Zone.
Most definitely. And what I really love about it is that the SDGs are in several categories. It covers people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnership. So the action zone this year covered people, planet, and partnership. So it's very exciting because I'm definitely into the people's part. Like I didn't miss day one at all because I'm a humanitarian. So day one held a lot of programs geared towards the people that's involved, like, no poverty, gearing to people, leave no one left behind. Day two dealt with the planet. I caught a couple of day two, but I know T. Thompson being someone that's in agribiz, she was all on top of day two. And then day three was about partnership. How do we get partners? How do we collaborate? How do we have constructive collaboration to achieve these goals? So definitely it was very, very exciting. So T. Thompson, I know you loved day two, but for day one, what are some of the highlights for you?
Oh, wait a minute, Lady B. May I say something?
Yeah, of course.
Today is officially the 5th anniversary of the SDGs.
Okay, so it's today. Oh, it's the 25th. Yes.
2015.
Okay, so we have to clap for ourselves. So we are wearing our pins. We have our where's my pin? I gotta find my pin.
Yes.
My SDG pin.
Yes,
and you have a necklace, see?
Yes.
She has a necklace, and I have a couple. When we go to the UN, we collect our memorabilia, so we could always be representing the Sustainable Development Goals.
Yeah, so I just wanted to acknowledge that literally 5 years ago, there were countries who adopted this set of goals to stimulate action for the people, the planet, prosperity, peace, and partnership, as you just described. And I'm so happy that the 17 SDGs was created and all 169 associated targets. So I have been so overwhelmed this week with excitement and enthusiasm about the SDG Action Zone. I have 2 books full of notes. I enjoyed all 3 days. Now, I know Lady B, she knows me personally. And, if I had to think of if there's anywhere on the planet that I would be excited to see, there's only 2 people that excite me. That's like my friends or my celebrity friends in my head. And that's the DSG, the Deputy Secretary General, Ambassador Amina J. Mohammed, and Dr. Adeshina from the African Development Banks. They're my friends in my head. But with that being said, I have notes. So if you all can forgive
from
me,
her head,
not want to look down and do things like
that. Oh
yeah,
we have our notes. So
I have 2 books. I have a whole booklet full of notes from this week. And so let's start off with the kickoff. Now,
wait, let me do this.
Yes.
We support and we advocate for the SDGs, and we have particular SDGs that we hold close to our heart. Like, I'm just going to let people know the ones that I really, really support. There's 17 of them. But for me, I support SDG number 1, which is no poverty. Number 2 is good health and well-being for everyone. Number 4, quality education for everyone. Number 5, gender equality. That's where my girl child education comes in, and my women empowerment. And number 6, clean water and sanitation. I am desperately in need of clean water and sanitation for my villagers in the northern region of Ghana. So I really support SDG number 6. And then SDG number 17, of course, which is partnership for the goals. Now, these are the goals that I adopted. Personally, I adopt SDG number 5, which is gender equality. But for my foundation, the Lady Be Blessed Humanitarian Foundation, I've adopted the rest of the goals: no poverty, good health and wellness, quality education, clean water, and partnership for the goals. So definitely, these are things that we advocate for. And I know T also have a couple goals that she adopted.
Yeah, so we share, the beautiful thing about the SDGs is that they're intersectional. And so everyone can figure out what's best for them. If it's a business or corporation or organization, it could be part of their corporate social responsibility. It's a good way to segue in it. So yes, I do support one. I support all of the ones that you said, from ending poverty in all its forms to ending hunger and achieving food security and improved nutrition with goal number 2, and sustainable agriculture. Number 3, ensuring healthy lives and promoting well-being for all. Um, Inclusive education and equitable quality education, I must say that, and promoting lifelong learning opportunities, as well as achieving gender equality and empowering all women and all girls, which I can't wait to talk about later, as well as ensuring availability for sustainable management for water and sanitation, ensuring access to affordable and reliable and sustainable energy, promoting sustainable economic growth. And guess what, Lady B? Drum roll, please. It's official. I'm also doing that for the UNA, the United Nations Association USA. I'm the official Global Goals Ambassador for goal number 8, which is promoting inclusive and sustainable economic growth, food and productive employment, and decent work for all. As you know, that's dear to my heart, as well as building resilient infrastructures and inclusivity for sustainable industrialization and promoting inequality within and among countries. So what I started out just doing 1 through 10 and 17, but how can I not talk about agriculture and not be inclusive with goals 14 and 15, yes, because the climate action is a real thing. So now it's official. T. Thompson and Agribits, we promote all 17. I've been doing it all along. So the Lady B, I do all 17, but I just wanted to really highlight that right now. I'm so excited, particularly to do more promotion with the United Nations Association on decent work and economic growth, because it impacts us all. So thank you for that. But I want to answer your question because
go right ahead. Yes.
So at the opening remarks, when my shero, Ambassador Amina Mohammed,
right,
when she kicked it off with a recap of last year's Sustainable Development Goals Action Zone, and she talked about what the Secretary General had said last year. And I remember I wanted to jot down what he had said, but I got it this year. And he said, as she recapped, she talked about the 4 horsemen, or the 4 looming threats that impact us all. And one is the geopolitical tension. The second is climate action. The third is global mistrust. And the fourth is the dark side of technology. So we already had that going on.
Right,
so then when you couple it with the pandemic, we have to now springboard into an area of having some hopefulness and opportunity. And that includes everybody in the recovery for prosperity, for equality or equitable relations and opportunities, as well as a sustainable world. I thought that was just brilliant for her to recap that.
Not only that, I was so, my ears start perking up when she talked about global mistrust, and when she talked about the dark side of the internet, dark side of technology, because these are things that we are dealing with right now. Technology, as far as social media tracking you, there's no privacy, and that is the dark side of it, because now you could see that it's a control tool for conspiracy theories, for riots and all of this stuff. So when she talked about it, I was like, excellent. At least they have it. At least it's on their radar. And global mistrust.
Yeah,
we can't even say enough about that, how none of the heads of state trust each other. Globally, we are actually at this silent war that we know nothing about, but it's been raging for the last 5 years. So, and I'm glad at the United Nations, especially the Secretary General, that these things are there and she's able to mention them.
Yes,
so that was very good.
She also gave some good indicators in in terms of why each and every one of us need to be actors on the Sustainable Development Goals. I love when she recapped that, 1 out of 5 girls, they're experiencing domestic violence, and we need to have zero tolerance for it. I love how she said, tens of millions of children are out of school, and so they're going to fall into extreme poverty. And what's going to happen with
10 million girls will not be able to return to school. 10 million. Can you imagine? Yeah, that's
future
that's
leaders.
A country. Yes.
And then the third one that I think often gets left on the sidelines sometimes is that the people who are the persons with disabilities who already are suffering, right, with additional burdens because of this pandemic. And then last but not least, you cannot leave the planet out because there is no planet B. And so the demand for climate action has to happen now. So I think I was screaming and dancing and because I don't dance, but I think I was dancing.
Sending me screenshots every 5 minutes.
Yes. So what a bold commitment in terms of putting it out there, in terms of how we have to be actors on the SDGs.
Yeah, and we have to get our act together. There's no doubt about it. 10 years is not a long time. And when we think about COVID-19, it's pushed it back 4 years. So a lot of the progress, especially with gender equality, and as we talked about education and even health and wellness, I saw a report where they say 140 million new babies are going to be born at the end of this year. Where are we going to put those babies? I don't know. And I like 5 million alone in Nigeria. I don't know where the numbers are coming from, but they're predicting because of COVID and people are shut in, that there's so many pregnant people now that when they are ready to deliver in mass number, it's going to put a strain on the healthcare system all around the world.
Which goes back to my platform, which I've been saying for the longest. By 2050, we're going to have because of the urbanization swell that's going on, we're going to have all these people on the planet and not enough food to feed them.
Not enough food.
That's a real thing, because most people think that we are fed by industrialized and commercial food. So that brings me to my next exciting point from one of the sessions about launching the Decade of Action. And that particular session had Richard Curtis, who is a director and a producer, Jacqueline Fuller, who is a SDG advocate, and Dia Mareza. She's one of my Nollywood actresses that I like her. I like her in a couple of Nollywood. Bollywood. Bollywood actress. But last but not least, Edward Dupo, New Dupo, and he is a humanitarian. He's an activist. He's an SDG advocate. But he said one of the most profound things, and I wrote it down. When we look at what is the vision for the world, what's the vision for the world? With the SDGs, and he said the SDGs is like a North Star. I was like, ooh, that's profound. But why is it profound? He said, it's always the same group of marginalized communities that bear the worst manifestations of crises after crises after crises, whether they're Black or brown or First Nations or Indigenous people, women and girls, or people with disabilities. We have to do better with our new world to have more equitable and sustainability for all. I said he summed it up brilliantly.
Yes, definitely. And after they talked about that, they talked about protecting the future, the ABC of reaching and teaching children in crisis. And this really got to me because we think about all the children that's out of school. And the theme is no one left behind. However, there are millions and millions of children who are being left behind in this decade of learning because of the fact they do not have the technology to be homeschooled via virtual homeschool. So what about all of those children that's in the village all of the children with parents do not have internet, they're really being left behind. So it's sort of like a double-edged sword where we don't want to leave anyone left behind, but we're having all this virtual education that millions of people are not able to get. So when I was listening to that, I'm like, come up with some solutions. This is what I was really looking for. Solutions to people in the village, not only children, but even adults in the village or in communities where they don't have technology and they don't have access. In Indonesia, they're saying that in the family, the girl was saying that there's only one cell phone, and it's her dad's cell phone. And if her dad has to go to work, she has to wait until her dad comes home in order to use the cell phone to do her mobile learning. So that talk really had me and thinking, like, how do we come up with solutions with not leaving these children behind? Because they are being left behind.
Yeah, may I put it in perspective? It's like before COVID-19, the progress towards inclusive and equitable quality education was already slow. Right. And so there were over 2 million children who would be out of school by 2030. So with the COVID-19, the inequalities in education are exacerbated because of the pandemic. Yes. And so in low-income countries, children's school completion rates are 79%, and the completion is only 79% in more wealthier households, and it's 34% in the poorest and 20% in the extreme poverty households. Yes. We have to do a better job. Yeah.
And you think about it, that was before the COVID, right?
This is the inequalities as a result of the COVID.
Of the COVID, yes, okay.
Yeah, so it's like, as you stated, the remote learning remains out of reach for at least 500 million students. So you still have people who cannot get quality education. And let's look at, like the little school age kids or the primary schools. They still have to be able to overcome basic hand washing in order to resume going back to school, because it's a critical element to prevent COVID-19. So this is a real looming issue. So I was so happy about that session too.
I was happy about the session, but the solutions still need to come up because these kids really need the education. I'm an advocate for education. So definitely they need to come up with where they have something that they could reach, either if they have a satellite bus or if they have something they could take and plant it in a village so these kids could continue their education. The solution has to be there.
Yeah, and it takes individuals like you and I and everybody who hears our voice today to figure out what can we do. You have to be the change you want to see. So I challenge everybody that's listening to our voices today and whenever to think about how they can be the change as it relates to quality education.
And I'm going to say this.
What was your next favorite session?
Before I say that, I want people to know that T and I, we do not rely on the government. We have to get up and do it ourselves. You have to be, I know. You have to be the change. If you want to see a change, you have to be the change that you want to see in this world. You can't sit and rely on anyone to do it for you. So don't be surprised if we have a mobile learning center set up in one of the villages. Like, this is our solution. You see?
I can't wait to get to my 11-year-old app designer in Nigeria and see what she's coming up with for how we can.
Yeah, these are things that you could do. And a lot of people say, oh, the government has to do this and the government have to do that. And sometimes it takes you to be your own government. It takes for you to be your own leader, and you have to get up and do it. On day one, the next one was job protection. They talked about job protection, and then they talked about protecting society. If you want to speak about the job protection part, you could, but I wanted to speak about the protecting the society. We talked about inequality and how now a lot of women who will not be able to return to work. Go ahead.
I jumped down to the decent work and solutions for transition. That one, I jumped to that one. It was so many things going on. Let me explain. Every day they had 3 stages. So there were 3 opportunities in certain time increments where you can go to different sessions. So I wanted to jump to the session with Vic Van Vuren, Archiana Soren, Paloma Costo, and Valdiscolor Khan.
And what time was that one?
I don't have it on my notes. It's just in my book as I was watching.
Go ahead. That's fine.
And so that one was really important because as a newly global goals ambassador for goal 8, decent work and economic growth, I'm like, okay, this has to be good because there's so many people that's impacted by not being out of work or needing work. So let's put it in perspective in terms of before COVID-19, the global economic growth was slowing down. It was on a downward slow. So the GDP per capita growth was only at 2% between 2010 and 2018. And so the GDP per capita growth started having a little bit of an edge, like 1.5%. So because of COVID-19 or during this pandemic that we're still in, there are 1.6 billion workers who are out of job or who have lost or are at risk of losing their livelihood. That's crazy. In tourism, just the whole industry of tourism has collapsed.
Yes.
No one's going anywhere because we still being ultra sensitive and cautious because the pandemic is still going. So the world has faced the worst economic recession since the Great Depression. So the GDP per capita, because of the COVID-19 implications, has decreased down by 4.2%. in 2020, which is horrible. It is impacting us all. So when I have people that call me or mentees that call me from different countries, you meant United States, you have to be doing better. The recovery is coming. We heard that the government is giving you money. I'm like, no, there's still a lot of people that's not working. And can we talk for a second? And then with the pandemic, 70% of all of the frontline workers or the healthcare workers are women. So I just wanted to put that in there.
We haven't even touched on how women and children are suffering domestic violence, job displacement, education.
I know. It's a lot.
It's a lot. It is a lot. And they may not be able to recover. Mm-hmm. Women that have lost their job, they have to stay at home to watch the kids. The kids in the United States, children are out of school. Mm-hmm. I don't know if a lot of people think that they're in school. They're out of school. So who would watch the children?
Right.
So the women have to leave their jobs.
And we must put on top of that, we have all this virtual learning. So you are forced to be a teacher and educate kids. Don't have 2 or 3 different children in different age.
Thank goodness my boy. Thank goodness they're grown, because me and homeschooling, I don't think it would have mattered. I don't think I would have done that good.
We need to salute our educators, the people who are teaching. They already were underpaid and undervalued, but I have to salute the teachers, the educators that's out there, even whether you're in a primary school or you're in a postgraduate situation. Your academic matriculation is real. And so we salute all of the educators that's out there that's still trying to make sure that people can get a quality education. So we salute you all for that.
And all of those that's putting in the Zoom
decent
hours.
Work solutions and for just transition was at 9:00 on day 1. I see my notes. Yeah,
okay.
It was on
that was
stage
the early
3.
one. I got it. Yeah. That was on stage 3. Okay. I was basically on stage 1 most of the day, but one of my protecting society, reversing economic gender and power inequalities to supercharge the SDGs, which is exactly what we are talking about now with the economic outlook for women as being very bleak. And say because with the jobs that the women are lost, they cannot recover those jobs. A lot of the girl child are out, education wise, and some of them may not be able to return to school. And there's a lot of family that couldn't afford school fees in the first place, and they can't. Laptops, computers, Chromebooks. Even here in the U.S., a lot of families having a problem affording the Chromebooks. So the schools were giving out Chromebooks, and they had 400 and over 1,000 parents showed up. for Chromebooks. So a lot of things with Supercharged, so Protecting Society was a very, very good one. That was on Tuesday. I think that was on 9 o'clock too, but on stage one.
You know, and then
so
they touched on that both, I think, on stage 1 and stage 2. With Leave No One Behind, with the Bridging the Digital Divide, and how to accelerate the 2030, because I was going between both of them.
Bridging the Digital Divide was a good one. And that is where we talked about no one left behind, but yet these children are being left behind.
Yeah, can we go a little deeper with that?
Farmers are being left behind. Indigenous workers are being left behind, because now it's not like you could go to a meeting and get this information. No one is gathering, and they don't have like, they can't like go on their cell phone and say, oh, okay, give me this information. There's no internet.
Right, because in a lot of rural areas, and even here in the United States,
even in the farmland,
they still don't have the connectivity.
Right.
So those were good sessions. But you know what? I must admit, one of my favorite and really practical, very down-to-earth sessions was after those three. The conversation, the Reimagine talk, and the conversation with Connie Britton. And you know, I'm combing through my notes.
You see her notes. She's so fancy. I always tell T. Thompson, she's so fancy.
The reason why that one was really a really good session was because of both of the conversation and the moderator. So Connie Britton, she's an actress. She's a U.S. actress, and she's also a four-time nominated Emmy and Global Gold nominee. She's also a UNDPA Goodwill Ambassador. And so her focus has always been on women and girls and women empowerment, as well as poverty eradication. So she was with the moderator, Jill Quatra. And so, and Jill is a UNDP Deputy Director of Communications. Now, why I like this one, both of these women who are living in this this pandemic world, this virtual world, both were like, okay, our kids might come in here. My kid is coming in here, and they might talk about poop. And the other one was like, my kid is screaming and doesn't want to do their homework. So yeah, my kid does not want to do the virtual learning.
The construction is going on outside. I know it's a little loud.
In the midst of the session, they were being very authentic, very real, very genuine. And let me say, they were doing it just from a practical standpoint and talking about the impact of what COVID-19 has looked like, the impact of how alleviating poverty is exasperated, how the impact of being at home virtually with your family, with the kids, and how the new norm, or how we're going to catapult out of this, and just talking about motherhood and how women, you know, we're nurtured. So I really enjoyed just the practical conversation that the in conversations with Connie Britton and Jill Lee, their discussion. It was a nice one.
Although I do miss the networking and being at the UN and the excitement of being in New York, I was very well informed because I could switch between stage 1 and stage 2. If I was at the UN, we couldn't switch between conference room A and conference room B. It's very difficult. So this, because I have 2 monitors, I was able to have one on my phone, say stage 2 on the phone and stage 3 on the computer. And I felt that I enjoyed most than being at the United Nations. You understand what I'm saying? Because this, you were able to get information from everyone at the same time. You just have to switch between, and then listen, if you were in the United Nations, we're in one conference room, you would have to leave it, go to the other conference room, and it might be way down the hall, you know. So,
well, let's talk about just getting a security clearance.
Oh, wait,
make sure you get that too.
I don't think people understand what it means when it says you are admitted into the UN. It's not an easy thing. You have to do security. I don't know why people think, it's no. You have to do security clearance. You have to be cleared. You have to send your passport, your ID, a blood sample.
You just can't show up. But
you just can't show up.
I think we've done a good job of highlighting some of the elements of
Of
day
day
one.
one. There was
Can we
one
go
more
to
I
day
wanted to
two?
do.
Okay.
Can we do the
Yes.
future of leadership? That was the end. That was at the end of the day when they talked
With the
about
women
when
who
women lead
leading. Oh, yes, yes,
on
yes,
T.
yes,
That
yes.
was
That,
so good. And it just highlight that women leadership is here to stay.
yes.
Women leadership is here to stay. And women leadership is needed.
Yes.
It is needed. It's well needed. Not that we're tired of the men.
Yeah. That was a good one. They gave a lot of great statistics.
Yes.
They gave a lot of great statistics out.
And I want you guys to know that all these sessions are still up. They're still up on the website, SDG actionzone.com. So you guys can still go if you miss it. And if you guys have any questions for myself or Lady T, just put them in the box on the Facebook. I see you guys are watching on Facebook. Hello, everyone. I'm looking at you on my phone. So just go ahead and put the questions on and do it. So yeah, When Women Lead was a good one. The future of society, the future of work, those are also very good. And then they closed with the power for a healthy society. That's how they closed. All right, so day 2 was the planet, and I know this was T's day. I was all into day 1. I didn't do too much in day 2.
I must admit that I enjoyed all 3 days, and I would be lying to anyone if I said one day was better than the other. I enjoyed all 3 days because, I can't advocate about agriculture. I can't advocate about poverty eradication. I can't advocate for decent work and inclusion without the planet. And so as the executive director of Agribiz and listening to all of the perspectives and some of my, can I go in reverse order for this one? Some of my best lines that I am now will be quoting came from Vanessa Nakate, who was in the closing session with Rising Up for Our Lives with Vanessa Nakate. That young lady, she said everything for me. And she summed it up with this. And I quote, "You cannot eat coal. Can't eat it. Coal. Can't eat coal. And you cannot drink oil."
She said to me, the lady B, look. She said you can't eat oil and you can't eat coal and you can't drink oil.
I think
very deep, to the top of my lungs. Very deep.
This young lady, these young climate action advocates and activists are on top of it. Now that was profound. You can't eat coal and you can't drink oil. Just think about that for a second. Yeah. So as we rise up for our lives and for the betterment of the planet, because there's no planet B, that's something to think about when we look at fossil fuels. So that was one of the favorite things. And then I'm going backwards with this. I enjoyed the performances were nice. I like the 10 years promoting sustainable consumption and rethinking waste management. Also. Yeah, those were nice. And accountability during COVID-19 was great. However, one of my other favorite sessions, again, I'm looking at my notes, so bear with me as I'm flipping through. I have a whole notebook full of notes. There were two sessions that really resonated with me. One was the SDG advocate section, intergenerational dialogue. Yes. On climate
I was just about to ask you what you felt about that one, because it has to be intergenerational. When you think about our habits, how we leave our habits to our children. So we have to think generational wise when it comes to this climate change.
That one was extraordinarily profound. And let me tell you why. We had 2 climate activists who were 17 years old. One is an Egyptian American. Her name is Jana Amin. And the other one, I can't pronounce her name. Let me just tell you that right now. She's Samoan. It's like 25 letters in her name.
It is. And it has all of those type of things in it.
Yes. And she's 17 years old and she's from Samoa. And so what I what I liked about that particular section, where they talked about the sectionality of all things related to climate action. And repeatedly, these 17-year-olds, they were clear about, you have to stop talking about it and you have to listen and do something about it. You have to bring recommendations to your community. You have to bring recommendations and bring solutions to governments. You have to stop the oppression of people. You have to stop the oppression of disadvantaged individuals and look for equality. You have to think post-COVID-19, how can you impact marginalized people more? You have to recognize that policy does not impact women and girls. Policy is written to impact boys. I said, no, this 17-year-old from Samoa,
very impressive,
who's up at 3 a.m. in the morning, she said that, and that more importantly, we have to have financial support. But let me say this, and then I'll let you chime in. One of the things that I thought was mind-boggling is I was not aware that in 10 years, some of the Pacific countries like Samoa, they might not even be around because the climate change is impacting those islands that we don't think about often, and those First Nation communities or indigenous communities, and that constitutionally we have to do something to transform climate change so that doesn't happen. And that's a due justice to all indigenous people, because all indigenous persons are impacted first. I dropped the mic from the 17-year-old Philly from Samoa. It was a great session.
Because those islands are disappearing because the polar caps is melting. Because the earth is too hot with the climate change. So when the polar, so these islands now are drowning. So in the polar caps, so she's right. It's very serious. It's a very serious thing when you think about it. And it goes beyond you saying, oh, I'm not going to use any more plastic. Oh, I'm going to get a bamboo cup or something like that. It goes beyond that. It's also our action. Plant more trees, plant more trees, don't destroy it. You use bamboo instead of wood. So it's for it, and it intergenerational means it is all our responsibility to leave this knowledge and the better way of acting towards the earth, the planet, for our children.
Yeah, we have to listen to our local communities. We have to mainstream policies that impact gender, and we have to work in partnership to prevent these atrocities. And one of the other things that the 17-year-old from Samoa, Philly, said is, she said with the heat being so hot, it may actually disrupt the continent of Africa, breaking into two countries because of the drought. And I was like, wow, this young lady,
because it's so dry. Which has happened before. Landmass have split off and form whole new different countries. Yeah, day 2 was really good for the activists, those that support the planet. SDG number 13 was covered throughout the whole day on that day.
Oh, and another one that was incredible, even though it was sort of like a recap, but at the same time, another one that was a recap was just talking about the lightning talk with the climate justice and building bridges between climate action and human rights and how they go hand in hand. It just took me to goals 6 through really 6, 7, 8, 9, 11. And I really want to go to 11. When I think about 11 is making cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, and resilient and sustainable. Why is that important? Because before COVID-19, when you look at the share of urban population living in slums, it rose. It was a hike. It was going up all the way to, it went from like 1 person being in the slums to 3 people.
Right.
So it was an increase up until 2018. So that was pre-COVID-19.
And look at it
so
now.
If you look at only half of the world's urban population have convenient access to like public transportation and a lot of public resources. And after COVID-19 or the COVID-19 implications, over 90% of all COVID-19 cases are where? In urban areas.
Yes.
Urban areas. And so when you think of these urban areas, usually are going back to what Edward Dupo said, these are already marginalized people. So it's just something to think about. So when you think about the human rights piece of it, it's like, yeah, we got to do a better job in helping our marginalized communities. So I thoroughly enjoyed that on day 2. And then let me see if is there anything else on day 2 that I did not cover. And I think that was it. There was so many good things about climate action and just the envoy on the youth and just talking about sustainable consumption. Great job. The SDG Action Zone Planning Committee, I don't know who they are. They did a superb job.
They did a wonderful job. And even the moderator that did the whole thing was very good.
Oh, Nadidra.
Deidre, I forgot.
Nadidra,
one,
yeah.
I missed the did you catch the Impossible Food on stage 1? Reimagine Talk, and that I caught it too late. It's like when I saw it, I was like, oh, that would have been a good one. But I'm gonna go check it out on the page.
Yeah, I thought, because I'm in agribusiness and I talk about food and food insecurity, food security and scarcity all the time, I tried it to be a little diverse. And as you know, when we go, if we were asked at UN, we would go to sessions that we typically wouldn't go to because I'm always of the opinion that there's something out there for us to learn or to be educated on or to expand our knowledge about. So that's why I was excited even for day number 3, when there were 2 sessions that really got my undivided attention. One was just watching the SDG advocates talk about policies to change the world, which were recaps of basically all 17 of the goals.
Yes.
But the other one, which I was so glad that they included, even though it was a recap and it was a dialogue between my favorite person, the DSG, Ambassador Amina Mohammed.
Your best friend, right?
And the MC, Nadidra. They had a dialogue about why did she do Women Rise for All? And together we are stronger.
That was so good.
Now you and I participated in it when it first launched a few months back. Remember that?
Yes. We participated. It was so good that they had it at the Action Zone. Let me tell you, people, this is something that we all should be involved in. And even though it was not at the UN, everyone should have been in their house, logging in and becoming part of it. Now I'm waiting. Normally, I try to catch all of the head of state speeches at the United Nations. I mean, it's a lot of them. But I'm waiting this year to see the speeches that they sent in because I'm interested to know how they're able to implement the SDGs amidst COVID-19 in their countries. And that would be one of the key factors I'm going to be looking for when I listen to the head of state sending their general reports.
Yeah. And so with that, one of the things that I enjoyed for that session is that, to know that someone like the DSG, she's human just like us. She's like, I called everybody and they said yes. I was shocked. Basically, everybody said yes when it came on to do Women Rise for All. But I agree with you. I'm looking forward to hearing from the heads of states to see if they talk about the different silos as it relates to human rights, as it relates to gender inequalities. And, my thing has been on labor trafficking, decent work. So I'm looking forward to that. But
the labor trafficking, I don't want to tell us a little bit about that because I know it's a program that you're just been accepted into. Congratulations.
Thank you, darling.
Oh, yeah, welcome, darling.
So what it is most people, when we think about human trafficking, and human trafficking is a violation of human rights. Let's talk about it. And human trafficking has so many different names. Rather we call it child trafficking, rather we call it labor trafficking, rather we call it forced labor, or if we call it modern day slavery, it's all
the same thing.
And most people, when you hear human trafficking, it automatically goes to sex trafficking, or being in the sex trafficking. But guess what? The number one money maker from human trafficking is labor trafficking, and it impacts most migratory communities in agriculture.
Wow.
Because it's the people who's harvesting. And so it's a huge problem. It's not just a U.S. problem. It's a huge problem. So I'm just happy as a agriculture or as an advocate. You get it? Advocate,
I know, right?
Right.
All the tongue twisters. Agriculture advocate.
Yeah, just an advocate. I'm just happy to explore, how is this impacting us? How does this impact certain commodities? We really have to be conscientious of the things that we buy. The biggest power, or the most powerful thing we have, is what we purchase with our money. And purchasing things that don't come from areas where women have been exploited, or a whole country has been exploited, or children have been exploited, and just being conscientious about that. So I was excited to listen to the SDG advocates in terms of policies to change the world, as I was about the Women Who Rise for All, because it took me to a couple of different things in terms of approaching how we have to continue to convene, to talk, and have a voice.
Continue the dialogue.
New ways of communicating and being innovative with our conversations and being intergenerational in a new world. We have to have the right headspace to do that. And oftentimes when there's innovation or creativity, and when you ask women that, they don't always embrace those things. And so I'm looking forward to the next generation. I'm looking forward to still having a seat at the table, and sometimes dragging my chair to a table so that I can have an opportunity to be impactful and have a voice.
Yes. Most definitely. Shout out to Marie Rose, who says she's following us all the way from Maryland. So big up Maryland, big up Marie Rose. Thank you for following us and enjoying the conversation. Like I say, if you guys are viewing and you have any questions, just go ahead and put it there in the comment box, and we'll be more than happy to, answer it. We're going to wrap up soon. This is perfect.
This is great. I just want to leave this from day 3. There was some continuity with C words, and the continuity with C words, there are 5 that I walked away with from day 3. Is we have to be conscious, we have to be creative, we have to be committed, we have to include the climate, and we have to think post-COVID-19.
Yes.
So great job for the SDG Action Zone. Great job.
SDG Action Zone, anyone can attend it. It's open to everyone. It is geared to bring the UN to the world. So definitely it did that this year. And the world to the UN, as we see everyone logged in. So all sessions are free to attend to people. But if it's at the United Nations, of course, you had to get, your pass and everything. But this year it was free to attend, because this was the first time ever everyone from across the globe can tune in and participate. So I hope everyone took the opportunity to tune in and participate in the sessions that were live. I hope you guys geared a lot from the conversation, and I hope that you were able to network with some people just by writing down their information. A lot of people that spoke are open, like they're open to conversation, to people that are doing the SDGs. And also the Twitter was set up. I know I tweet during a couple conversation. I was on my Twitter saying, great conversation. And they actually ran it while the show was going on or the person was speaking. So that's another way to be part.
You did it. You did it during my girl Nikita's.
Yes, you're like, Lady B, I see your tweet.
Yes. And I was like, Lady B, I see you.
Yes, and these are things we do to be part of the conversation, so when people are not watching it, you're there. So definitely, I enjoyed it. waiting. The UN, the General Assembly is still going on, I think, until next week, right? Till the end of next week.
I think it wraps up today. I think it may wrap
today,
up today.
The 25th?
I'm not sure. I've been into the SDG,
so have
SDG zone.
Do you know if the head of state did their speeches yet? Have they run those?
I don't know, but I'm looking forward to getting copies of them, just like you. But I would like to say this as we're wrapping up. I really took away something that I have not really actively taken full advantage of personally. I know as professionally I have, in terms of strengthening partnerships and strengthening, which means the implication and execution and revitalization of global partnerships for sustainable development. So my takeaway from the SDG action zone is I am going to be a better actor with implementing and executing better and more impactful global partnerships for sustainable development. And I hope that we can encourage everyone who's listening or viewing today to do the same thing. Lady B, you are such a blessing. Continue your humanitarian work.
And I want to say this, SDG starts with you, the people. If you see people, planet, partnership, everything else fall in place under the people, planet, and partnership. So it starts with you, the people, we, the people, you, the people, I, the people, they, the people. It starts with the people. You know, we can't expect the animals to say, oh my God, climate change is coming. I'm not going to grow fur this year. No, it's up to the people. Yeah, you okay, T?
I was clutching my pearls. Yes, Lady B.
Yes.
The 2030 Sustainable Development Goals starts with people, the well-being of people. You are correct. It also impacts the planet for the protection of Earth's ecosystems. And then it's the prosperity, continued economic and technological growth.
Break it down.
Peace, securing our peace. And last, but definitely not least, is partnerships, improving international cooperation.
And you see how that goes hand in hand, people? Okay. So don't wait for nothing. Go out there and do it. Oh, I enjoyed this. 17 goals to transform the world. If you guys are interested in learning more, it's un.org, www.un.org. If you're interested in getting in contact with Miss Lady T. Thompson, it's agrobiz.org, www.agrobiz.org. Interested in me, I am ladybeblessed.com. I am ladybeblessed.com. So these are our ways of you guys getting in touch with me. We are both available to speak on any subject pertaining to the SDGs. T. Thompson is an expert also on agribiz. Anything dealing with agribiz farming, she is an expert. Get in touch with her for your next conference, your next talk, your next event, has anything to do with agribiz. Let her know. I am a consultant and advocate for the SDGs. Let me know. Let's get in touch. Let's become part of the voice. Let's continue the conversation. We're looking forward to continue the dialogue with anyone that's interested. And also we come as a team. So
we've done a lot together.
Go back to my south side of Chicago.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, we've done a lot together. You know, when you're in a platform.
We're both Midwest girls. Midwest, Chicago, Michigan. We good.
We've done a lot together, but nonetheless, thank you. Thank you for talking about these aspects of interdependence and transformation. God bless each and every person that's listening. Thank you, Lady B.
All right, we are out of here.
Happy anniversary to the SDGs.
Happy anniversry to the SDGs.
Almost like a happy birthday.
It is a birthday celebration. We have to do an SDG cake today or something. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you guys next Wednesday. And my session next week is... Who am I doing next week? Oh, Dr. Helen from Hawaii. She's from Hong Kong, yes. And she will be talking about the African Youth Diaspora Organization that she started. So that's next week, Wednesday, 3 p.m. New York time, right here, www.facebook.com/LadyBeBless. Bye, everyone. Thank you.